One thing I get asked a lot these days is, what is the value of this card? What is the value of that card? What's the value of my collection? So today we're going to actually take a look at how to value such a given collection using sold card price data. So let's get to it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Pokémath. My name is Stefan Eriksson, and today we're going to be taking a look at the value of a collection. Actually, we're going to take a look more at how do you actually value a given collection. Showing an example today, we're going to be valuing using sold prices to see, what is the actual value of such things? Because, well, we all know the hype nowadays is all gone quite crazy. You just have to look at your eBay sold listings and especially, well, just look at all them SARDs. But today we're going to take a little different direction, and this is only going to be like the first kind of steps, from which for the next video I'll hopefully make for Pokémath will be something regarding investment into Pokemon cards, which will be quite interesting. Well, I think it's interesting. The question is whether you think it's interesting, but you know what? We'll get there when we get there. Well, for today's video, we'll be valuing a given collection, like I said, and for like that, I would like to say thanks for Card Market for sponsoring this video. If you need a place to go buy or sell your cards, then that's the place to go. I use it all for my full art supporters, which I find is amazing, getting all different languages, a nice European platform, and the service is really, really nice. So if you don't know about it, well, hopefully you do now. Go check it out. With that said, let's get on to today's episode, from which we're going to answer the question, what is the value of a given collection? Well, before we get so far, let's take some background story first, because, well, there's a lot of things happening out there now. And we only have to take a look outside the window to know the world is not the same as it was in the beginning of 2020. We all have the jokes, we all have the stories, we all know what happened, and we all know what's still going to happen out there. But you know what? That also means that the Pokemon market as such have changed a lot this year. We can only see from the prices, the price has gone up. People are questioning, is it a bubble? Did it burst already? What happened? And there's a couple of factors playing in here, which I think is very important to highlight. So here's my take on, well, where's the Pokemon market right now, in terms of TCG, of course, and what makes such that it is the market it is right now, and what can we actually expect in the future. So yeah, this is just my little different take on how, this situation is. So let's start with, what is the whole Pokemon TCG actually? Like, first of all, it's a very huge franchise, of course. A cursory look just over the internet just shows that how big the Pokemon media franchise is. It's actually the world's biggest. Well, beating Hello Kitty, wow. But as you can see here, this list here, of course, November 22nd in 2019. But I think it's still relevant here 1 year later. I still believe Pokemon is the biggest franchise out there. It is enormous. How much money is in this merchandise? And look, for our purposes here, you see even trading card game makes up a sizable chunk of this. So you have the biggest franchise supporting this card game, which, well, is very interesting on its own. What is the whole other aspect of this here? Why is the price going up? Well, when you look at it, the investment into Pokemon cards like this is actually a relatively new market compared to many other things. And when you look at the given volatility of such a market, so the fluctuations in the prices, say, it's actually a rather stable market if you look at it as a whole. More about that in a different video, of course, but what I can say about it right now is that we see that it is a very relatively young market. It's not really, I don't even think it is saturated yet. I think we're not really at a top point yet as such. But I do believe that it is a relatively stable market. Just look at it. It's actually not that volatile compared to many other things, which provides a nice, different investment opportunity if you have, well, money to invest. Often you see that the return on the normal financial markets, so normal stock market or whatnot, then you see that the return is often not satisfactory to many. And for people who don't like to take as much risk as with crypto, for instance, you see other people investing in, well, different commodities. Previously it used to be artworks, so art, actual paintings, but now other collectible objects such as trading cards, like Pokemon trading card game, has become a new thing. A new nice investment opportunity for people to actually go into. So this is actually what you see nowadays, that is many of these people, which also comes for, there's a recent increase in these numbers of collectors, or even flippers, or both. Like, of course, it could be that, somebody buys for their collection, but also buys extra in the hopes of flipping them later for a higher price. Simply seeing it as an investment. You simply buy an object, you buy a commodity, or whatnot, or a piece of cardboard, right? That's essentially what it is. And you hold on to it and hope that the value would increase, and you sell it for, future profit, hopefully future profit. And of course, you may also collect yourself, so you hold one of the items for yourself for your own collection. These are interesting assets, of course, because they don't pay any dividends. They don't pay off anything. There's no real buyback like from a firm or whatnot. No, you're just holding on, hoping that this commodity or this asset here would increase over time. And that's essentially what's happening right now. So we do see a lot of in the market right now, a lot of flippers out there. We see a huge increase in both collectors and these. And these here are, of course, people who are coming back into the game. They get this nostalgia feeling. We're now all sitting at home most of the time. So, hey, we got, time at our hands. And then we refined our interest for Pokemon cards from 15, 20 years ago when we were very young. And then you see now these people entering the market, first buying off, saying all the cards that they remember from back in the day. That's also where we see all these huge increase in Charizard prices nowadays, or even Pikachu prices, right? And later on, they will figure out, hey, we are going to try and collect other things in the set, and, maybe master sets, or maybe a whole different collection. And, of course, these core fans, let's call it that, 20 years ago, when they were, 10 years old, 20, 25 years ago, they were, young. They only had their pocket money to spend, but now they're sitting in their late 20s, early 30s, and they now have money to spend. Well, on average, right? And then, of course, you will see these higher prices being, hit. So, and that's also one of the main reasons why the whole price scenario has gone up right now, because the people buying into this market here are people who actually has money to spend most of the time. So these are just some of the factors I think contributes to how the market is actually fluctuating right now. And this brings us now to today's example, from which I'm of course going to price all English full art supporters, because I have a weak spot for these things. You hopefully already know this with my other series and whatnot. So as an example, how to price such items over time. Of course, we're going to do it over time. We're going to do it fully and nicely. Then we're going to see how the prices actually fluctuate for such a collection. And of course, there's a few assumptions to make, as always. When I do something right, I would like to note the following. I do include rainbow rares, so for the newer sets there are rainbow rare versions of the same full art supporter. I consider them full art supporters in that sense, and add them to this, let's call it a portfolio. And I have obtained all my data from Card Market Sold, so this sold price graph, and that means also some of the ordering from which these cards enter the race, say, or enter the graphics, will be different than the release order, because it's in the order from which they were sold on Card Market and their sold prices. So that also means everything is based in euros. So this is mainly for the European market. However, I do think it comes with a very nice proxy for the overall market. I run from Noble Victors to Challenge Path, which means that I do not include Vivid Voltage, because at this moment in time, as of recording this, the series is relatively new, just legal for play around this time, and the prices are still fluctuating too much. They haven't yet settled. So I've decided not to include Vivid Voltage, and besides, some of the prices are even missing at this point. So I do think that I still get a very nice set of supporters to value. In fact, there's actually exactly 150, which is a nice number to work with, right? We all know this. And hopefully we'll see something interesting. So now what I'm going to show you is simply the evolution of this price for all full art supporters over time. And hopefully we can learn a couple of lessons from this. So lean back and enjoy this, and I'll be back in a moment. And this here concludes the price series that I showed you. I hope you found it interesting. And now let's look into what did we actually notice from this. And note, of course, this price series ran up until November 18th, 2020. That's until what the latest price was at the moment of making this video, of course, or at least gathering the data. So what kind of things did we actually notice? Well, we noted that the whole value of such a collection at that point in time was 1,695.14 euros. And that is, of course, roughly, with using that day's exchange rate, roughly $2,000. That's how much it will cost at that moment to purchase all of it, excluding shipping, of course. This is just the raw sold price value. So this is what they were valued at that point in time. And of course, this is also, I'm not taking into regard condition, but the average condition for these cards posted and sold are typically excellent to near mint, which means that, well, they're still in very nice condition, all considered. And what else did we learn here? So, what was the most expensive card in the end? Actually, it surprised me that it had to be the Cynthia from the alternate art print of Full Art Cynthia, which went for, at the end, so as of November 18th, 2020, it went for 45 euros. That is the last sold price, or sorry, the average sold price, which happened at that point in time, which, hey, that is interesting to know. And one thing that also comes to mind is, what was the most expensive card like at any point in this time series? Well, that was actually again Cynthia, which then spiked at 65.90. And of course, I also include here second and third place just to put them up here, and they actually fetched exactly the same price at two different points in time, October 29th and February 23rd, 2 different years, of course, these respectively. That's these, and of course, as many would have expected, was up in the high end. And, well, these are just the top 3, of course, but there's a lot of things playing into this. I find it very hard to price collections, especially if the collection is not that old. Funny enough, it's actually easier, I think, to price something that's a little older. Why? I put up 2 effects here that are very important effects in my belief, how to actually, the prices are going to affect cards. The first is the release effect. So how to briefly discuss that is simply to say, okay, whenever a card is first printed and, well, not even released, but come out in pre-releases, so before the actual release day, we often see very high prices, simply because the supply is not very high at that point. And we always notice that right after release, that is, that the normal stores can actually sell them, that the price always drops significantly. So it actually will settle after that. So of course, some of the first prices that you would see in this price series are affected by this release effect. Hence, they have an initial very high price, from which after they would drop down after release, and then they will somewhat settle or be relatively stable after that. So the second thing that pops in is the rotation effect. So if you have a card that's very playable in standard usually, and it rotates into expanded, then typically you see a chop off in the price. You see the price again would go down, because especially from a European point of view, there's not many expanded events. Therefore, rotating into expanded is makes the card less desirable for players, and of course still desirable enough for collectors often, but it does chuck down the price a little bit. Sometimes we do indeed see spikes because the effect of the demand from outside Europe also would affect the European market if the demand is big enough, because people would then come there and simply just make it shipped abroad outside Europe, right? And then of course we have another rotation effect, which we yet have to see. That's actually if a card rotates out of expanded into, well, unlimited essentially, and out into the unknown. Right now, as we all know, expanded has not really rotated like in forever. So that's actually going to be interesting to see. There's another thing that I did not consider here, and that's actually the banned card effect. So if a card actually gets banned, how does that actually happen to its price? Just check out, for instance, in this series I put up here, we have Lysander's Trump card, for instance, or Hexmaniac. And then we can see how the price actually would affect such card being banned. They can still be collected, of course, but they cannot yet be played anymore in official events. So those are just some of the observations that we made today, and hopefully this will provide a nice first step for all this here. So to sum it all up, what did we learn today? So we learned the current value of a collection. In this case, I actually got to get to price a full set of English full art supporters. Having such a set myself here is very nice, and of course I also collect all other languages, but I kept it just in English. So this is the value of the English sold cards, of course. And of course, we learned also what is the most expensive card at any point in time in the series, but also, of course, like at the end. And you can also, we discussed the release and rotation effects here at the end. And of course, what I didn't mention here, of course, I opened with a nice discussion of the state of the price of the market at the moment. A brief discussion, I know, but hopefully, useful to some. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And I'm definitely looking forward to make the next one we're going to look into actually as a portfolio. But you know what? Until that time, right? So with that said, thank you very much for watching. And until next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. I hope you found it interesting pricing such a collection here. I certainly always like to look at full art supporters, so please bear over with me. Again, I would like to thank Card Market for sponsoring this video. If you're missing a place to go buy your cards or sell some of your singles, that's the place to go. Nice customer service, good platform, so if you haven't checked it out yet, well, what are you waiting for? And again, thanks for watching this video, and please do not forget to like and subscribe. Still have to beat that YouTube algorithm. Still growing here, and I hope you like these videos so far. If not, or if, just let me know in the comment section below. And until next time.